And now we move to a discussion of academia, and in particular, Yale University, which has just announced they're issuing a new Islamic Studies certificate. What does that mean? What does it entail? What's the broader state of Islamic studies in the United States, a university across the country? We want to learn about that and talk about it today with our special guest. Let's bring him on, Professor Shawkat Toorawa. He is he is a professor of Arabic literature and a professor of comparative literature, and he's the chair of the Department of Near Eastern Languages and Civilizations at Yale University. We're very honored to have him with us today. Assalamu alaikum, Professor. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam. Very well. I'm very pleased to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. So let's dive in. Tell us about this new Islamic Studies certificate that Yale is offering. What does it entail? What do you have to do to get it? What's the focus of the studies?
Sure. So 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, Yale decided to introduce what we called a new curricular vehicle, and that is the interdisciplinary certificate. There already were some in data science and computer science, and there were some advanced language certificates. And my own department already has 3 of those, one in Turkish, one in Persian, modern Persian, modern Turkish, modern Arabic. We just started a new one in ancient Egyptian. But the interdisciplinary ones were designed or are designed to get students to think about clusters of courses. And so different groups of faculty were invited and are continue to be invited to think about areas that they might want to cluster courses around or have students cluster courses around. Medieval studies, translation studies, and education studies were the first certificates. It was very important to me to get an Islamic studies certificate going. So I contacted colleagues in religious studies, that is the Department of Religious Studies, and in other departments. There are people who are interested in the Islamic world in numerous departments. For example, the Slavic department recently hired someone who works on the former Soviet republics. We have someone in comparative literature who works on Iran. And we all decided it was a great idea. And so the certificate parameters are set by the university, and they're very flexible, 5 or 6 courses. And it's up to a certificate advisory committee to decide what those 5 or 6 courses look like. And so we decided students should take 1 course in a historical period, 1 course on religion or religious thought, 1 course in art, architecture, or literature, and 1 course in the study of society, and then just 1 other. And I introduced, and I say this with some pride because it was my idea and I rather like it. I introduced the idea that shouldn't just be coursework, but students should also have to attend 3 lectures on the topic of Islamic studies at Yale during their time here. And so that's it. It's a very simple ask. And so we're hoping that students get interested. We identified 3 kind of discrete populations, and there may be overlapping and there may be other populations, but the ones we're appealing to notably are students who aren't in the humanities, who may wish to explore some humanities interest by doing something like Islamic studies, students who are in the humanities but want to shore up their knowledge in a specific area. So someone might be a historian and decide they want to do Islamic studies. Someone might be in comparative literature. And then the third population is self-identifying Muslims who wanted to explore their heritage further, but in an academic way. And so that's basically the idea.
No, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. So tell us a little bit about the history of the study of Islam and Muslim civilization at Yale. Is that a place where the university has already had some experience, or something that has been, lacking? Tell us about the history of that.
Yeah, no. So Islamic studies at Yale is alive and well and has been for a long time. My own department, Near Eastern Languages and Civilizations, is the oldest of its kind in the country. And there have been folks studying Islam here since the very beginning. One fact I learned when I joined Yale in 2016. One fact I learned about the department is that the very first Black PhD in our department was actually a PhD thesis on a book called the Mutawakkili by Suyuti, a medieval Quran exegete and scholar. So there's a long history. There was something called Arabic and Islamic Studies, which was one of the specializations that undergraduates could pursue in this department. And then the Religious Studies department has had a long history of the study of Islam as well. Mainly the output, as it were, maybe not the right word, has been graduate students. And so a lot of the professors of Islamic studies around the country and the world are graduates of Yale, typically of either the Religious Studies department or the Near Eastern Languages and Civilizations department. So I would say robust, but a fairly small number of faculty. That has changed in the last 5 to 10 years. The year I arrived, Travis Zadeh was hired in the religion department, and the people I mentioned just now, Claire Rosine and Sam Hodgkin. And of course, I'm speaking about Islamic studies broadly construed, right? So people who study Islamic civilization. Kishwar Rizvi in the History of Art department teaches courses on Islamic architecture. There are folks in the Divinity School. Abdurrahman Malik now teaches Islam courses in the Divinity School. Frank Griffel has been here for 25 years or so, teaches Kalam, so Islamic theology, philosophy. So I would say it thrives. Yale is old and venerable, and there have been some old traditions and old ways. Those are changing, but those are changing from inside. That is to say, the institution itself is finding ways to change things. One of the things that surprised me, let alone surprising anyone else, was at one point in time, the chair of the religion department was an Islamicist, Frank Griffel. The chair of the Near Eastern Language and Civilizations department is me. The chair of the history department currently, in fact, we're all currently chairs, is Alan Mikhail, who studies the Ottoman Empire. And so, the institution is committed to the study of the parts of the world where Islam has been making an impact or made an impact. We also have Zarina Grewal, who works on modern American Islam. It's really quite an exciting time to be in Islamic studies at Yale. And I think for students, whether they're interested in majoring in something either in that or adjacent to that, or just doing something like this certificate, they have a whole, large selection of courses that they can take.
Yeah, that's remarkable. It's a very rich history, and sounds like a lot is going on right now. Obviously, you can't tell us what's happening at every school across the country, but in general, what would you say is the state of Islamic studies work in other universities around the country? Is this something that is becoming more common, more popular? And what would you say about the substance of these programs around the country in general?
So I would say it's robust, and there are lots of reasons for it. Some are good, some are less good. Inevitably, one still can cite 9/11 as one of the reasons why many universities and colleges where there wasn't the study of Islam decided to introduce it. Sometimes the reasons are very positive. You have one faculty member who's very active, and then a second one is hired, for example. Another important demographic factor, and it's a demographic in two ways. One is undergraduates, increasing number of undergraduates who are Muslims, who are interested in studying Islam, and then also graduate students who are Muslims who decide to pursue a career, say, in a PhD in Islamic studies, as opposed to some other topic or a professional school, law or medicine. That is quite obvious. Now, if you look around the country and you look at the people who are appointed to teach Islam, many are Muslims. Many increasingly now are also Muslims who were born in this country as opposed to Muslims who were born overseas. There's just been a shift. Quranic studies is quite vibrant in the world, but also in North America. I think it's slightly more contested field than Islamic studies, but actually it's a very good sign because it means that there are hard conversations that can now take place either between Muslims and non-Muslims or among Muslims about the Quran that when I was in graduate school, you couldn't really have. One always either worried about what reaction might be or it might be taken badly. I mean, all sides were a little reticent. That is no longer the case. And of course, it's to the benefit of the study of Quran and the study of Islam that there are now these conversations. So I would say it's robust, it's vibrant, it's very capacious. People can study what they want to study. And, the North American Academy still guarantees academic freedom. And so it's not that there aren't, sadly, the occasional story where someone has a bad experience or a bad relationship with their supervisor or something. That obviously continues to happen in Islamic studies as much as in anything else. But I would characterize things as, bright.
Gotcha. So what advice would you give to, another university that maybe is not as advanced as Yale in terms of the study of these areas, but wants to dive in? What advice would you give about getting started and getting the necessary buy-in and resources to pursue these fields of study?
So, often the challenge is that administrators don't have or don't feel that they have the resources. And it's often just comes down to that. There may be the occasional administrator who says, I'm not interested in, the teaching of Islam, or the teaching of Buddhism or the teaching of statistics or whatever at my university. But more often than not, it's I'm interested, but I don't have the wherewithal or the resources. One solution is to go to donors. I'm not a big fan of that solution. I think it's important to get change from within the institution. So the thing to do is to have those universities should invite outside scholars to come in, people in the area, in this case, Islamic studies, to come to the university, give ideally a relatively large public lecture and engage with those administrators and let those people outside, someone like myself, for example, would go to a place where there isn't either any strong presence in Islamic studies and have those conversations with those senior administrators to get them to see what the virtue is. Because a lot of people pigeonhole things. They think, well, Islamic studies is this small thing, or it's this niche thing, or it's religion, or it's modern politics. And of course, it's not any of those things alone. It can be a whole range of things. And I think once administrators realize and deans realize, oh, I can get much more out of this than just, in their perception, just the study of Islam, then they can see the virtue. So no one, for example, no one says when you hire a Shakespeare scholar, oh, all we're getting is someone who can teach Shakespeare. You think you're getting someone who can do pre-modern English literature. And I think the idea is to try and get people to perceive Islam not just as the religion, but as the whole civilizational construct.
Gotcha. Professor, I would be remiss if I didn't take advantage of your time to ask you to tell us a bit about your own area of study, your own expertise. You're in a very unique position as an Muslim scholar. And so I just love to hear about, and I love writing, I love reading. So I just personally love to hear about your path to this position and the area of focus that you normally focus on in terms of Arabic literature and comparative literature.
I'm a little, well, I don't know how, I'm a little unusual in that I think it's fair to say that most Muslim academics in Arabic and Islamic studies in North America are in the Islamic studies side of things much more than the Arabic side. I actually am interested in Arabic literature. And so, although I don't really embrace the secular religious divide as a way of thinking about things, if one casts it that way, I'm really in the secular side. I mean, I'm interested in modern Arabic poetry. I'm interested in medieval Baghdad, 9th and 10th century Baghdad, and the literary output of there. I'm also interested in Quranic studies. But my interest in the Quran is as a literary text, I don't study the theology. So I'm in literature. I started in literature thanks to a man called Roger Allen. I went to the University of Pennsylvania, and he said, you should study Arabic more aggressively than you are. I was going to take it, 5 hours a week. I took it 10 hours a week. My attraction to Arabic did originate, it must be said, in the fact that I had a connection to it through Islam. But I really was interested in the literature, and as was he. And he was inspiring as a model, and decided I wanted to become a professor of Arabic literature. And so that's what I decided to do. And my path brought me here to Yale, where little could I have imagined that I would have been involved in the creation of a certificate in Islamic studies, because really properly I'm in Arabic literature.
Yeah.
But it seemed like an important thing to do, just for Islamic studies, for students, and frankly for Yale.
Absolutely. Well, Professor, we're glad you're there doing this work, and we appreciate your time today. And we look forward to hearing more about this program and others that are sprouting up at Yale. Be well, and we hope to have you back in the future. God.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay.